And now, weighing in out of the blue corner, John the Punk Thompson.
100% agree.
And on the other mic, he weighs in from the red corner, Big John McCarthy.
That's right. We're live. It's the Weighing In podcast. It is Tuesday night. We're ready to go. We got all kinds of things to talk about, things from the past, UFC 314. We also have the future going on, things that are happening all in the sport. We're going to talk about them. My man's trying to look all educated with the glasses, but it's not working. It's just not working.
No, man. I fell asleep last night with my contacts in, and now I have like an ulcer in my eye. My eye is killing me right now.
Oh, dude, is it all? You scratched your cornea, didn't you?
Something,
Tried
man.
it out.
No, it's like anytime I touch my eye, if I blink, it hurts real bad. So I had to take them out like this morning when I woke up. I was like, man, this is so painful. So anyways, enough of the negative talk. And we got Big John McCarthy, Josh Thompson, of course, podcast Dave down there in the far left corner. And he's going to bring us the best topics and conversation of the week.
Whatever he's going to bring us there.
Stuttering Stanley.
Stuttering.
Yeah. So, Dave, what's the topic for us today? But before we get started, though, betustv.com, betustv.com. Hit them up, man. There's tons of sports going on right now. Also, you can check them out for the betting odds if you want. And at betustv.com.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dave. What do you got for us, buddy?
Well, I wanted to start with what's going on after this past weekend. You know, Volk comes back, wins the title, one of the few guys to do it above 35. You know, now he's got a total lineup of people. People are questioning whether John Silva should be the next guy in line based on the performance. People are saying that does Jair get the rematch? So Max is still up there. You know, I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on Ilya's gone, right? So what do you guys think the featherweight division is looking like? Who's next? Who's, you know, let's do a deep dive in there and see what you guys can come up with.
Not only is Ilya gone, you take a look at their rankings. They got a massive change in their rankings coming up for the 145-pound class, because I think they have Ilya was still ranked at like number 3 or something like that, and you have Diego who's going to be dropping down a little bit. You got to figure Yair is going to go up above Diego, and you also have Arnold Allen, but he hasn't been real active. Brian Ortega's out of there; he's in the lightweights. There's going to be a ton. Leon Murphy's going to be a guy that's going to be moving up there into the top 5.
Yeah, you have a lot of the top prospects who are actually just jumping ship, man. They're getting ready to move up to the 55-pound division. You got Ilya, who's going to make that run. I don't know. It sounds like, after I read what Habib had texted out, basically saying that he would like him to fight somebody. He's not ranked in the top, you know, in the 55-pound weight class.
He wants him as a 155er.
Yeah, let's see what you do. Yeah. And that's, I guess, for me, honestly, look, the Volk thing was to me felt necessary. Volk had cleared out the division. He had beat Max multiple times. There was no one else for really him to fight. Sure, further down, but he had beat all oncomers he had already beat. And so
it made sense.
The media had talked about this a while back, and I normally don't take the media very serious. I normally, when it comes to the media, I go full heel, right? I mean, my new AEW career is going to be starting here pretty soon. I cannot wait. So I'm going to make sure I go full heel these days.
Damn.
All right. Yeah. Look at these, John. I've been lifting weights, baby.
Look
at those peanuts, baby. Look at those peanuts.
Buggy whip arms, man.
So it just, buggy. I don't even know what that means. That's like an old thing.
You know the old carriages and the little buggy whips, the little skinny things that they would hit the horse with?
No. None of us were born in the 1840s.
Well, you know what? You need to become enlightened.
Oh, man. But, I think that Ilya does need to make – look, I know he has 2 wins over 2 of the best featherweights ever.
Yes. And impressive wins.
Very impressive wins. But I think also, too, because of the legacy that Islam is trying to set, it makes sense. You had 2 big wins. You won the title, but you didn't clear out your division. Volk cleared out his division. I think he made his way up. He did everything he could in that division. Even if he'd won the lightweight title, I'm not sure if he would have stayed. He would have stayed for a little bit. I don't think he would have made it a full-on stay there. If he would have beat Islam the first time or second time, he probably would have been like, man, these other guys are all so big. He maybe would have came back down. Who knows? I mean, that's all what ifs. But the bottom line is Ilya, him against Armand. And here's the other thing, John. I've heard people talk about, they're both Georgian. Yeah, but they don't train together. Like, that doesn't make any sense. It's like saying, they're both American.
They're both Brazilian.
They shouldn't.
Ridiculous. Fight. Well, hold on. You can go back a while, and it used to be you would get that whole, well, he doesn't want to fight him because he's Brazilian. They're both Brazilians. It's like, both fucking fighters. You know what? It's not like you guys were raised next to each other, and it's not like you're fighting out of the same camp. You guys live in different sides. It's like one's living in the, you know, as far as Brazil, the distance is, it's a distance of Chicago to LA. Well, you guys aren't. It's not like you just because you're from the same country. Bullshit. But
Brazil's not small, by the way.
no, it's the whole point. It's huge.
You know what I mean? It's not small. And the same thing like with the US. Like, what are you talking about? It's okay for all the Americans to fight each other. It's okay for all the Brazilians, but Georgians, no. Let's just stay
Georgians,
away.
no. Yeah. Japanese fighters should not have to fight another Japanese fighter.
It's just funny because I see them talking about, oh yeah, they'll never fight because they're Georgian. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Anyways, moving on. I think Ilya, him, and Armand would be the number one contender spot. I would not be opposed to watching him and Charles though. Charles is just somebody that he can do it all. Like when you're so well rounded, him and Ilya Topuria would be a fantastic fight.
It would.
All the stuff being said though about Charles I think trainer had said something along the lines of, you know, we're not really looking for that fight, you know, unless it's for the title. I understand. Charles has been there, done that. Did it at 45, did it at 55. Like he's fought everybody he possibly can in that 55-pound division. And he's beaten all the best guys. He's come up short, you know, but like honestly, the Ilya Topuria fight makes a lot of sense. I would prefer to see the Ilya fight and Armand Sarukian fight, just because Armand is in trouble right now with the UFC, and no better punishment than make him fight a fellow Georgian, but also too a 45-pounder. Like if UFC knows how to piss people off, you keep messing around, we're going to give you this fight. We know you don't want it, but guess what? You can take it or leave it. That's what they will do to you sometimes.
Oh, they will do that.
Yeah, especially when Joe Silva was in power.
Oh yeah.
Man, Joe Silva would just let you have the business. All 5'4" of him, man. He was awesome though. I loved Joe Silva. He was to me, I enjoyed being around him. He was a great guy.
The best part about Joe, he would tell you exactly the way he felt or the way he saw it. He was a straight shooter. He didn't bullshit. And so, you know, you might not like what he said, but he was a straight shooter.
You can, you know, it's hard not to admire people like that because they're so few and far between these days, John. Yeah, John is like, well, I mean, I think I get a ton of flack. I get so much flack because I mean, I call it like it is. I try to as much as I can. I am biased as hell, like, obviously towards the AKA guys, but I'm very upfront about that. I'm going to be extremely biased with my guys, and you know, but like I got so much flack over the Chandler thing last week, and I basically just called out exactly what I thought it would be, and it's funny the comments actually because I went back and read them. They all loved it, John. They all loved it, John. They loved it. There's like there's a stack of comments talking about, well, you were right, so we got to just eat crow today. I was like, yeah, wait till I'm right again next time. Maybe a couple years, but if I'm right again here soon, you guys are all gonna hear it. Like I said, I'm going full hill, you guys. I got no respect for you guys anymore. So, bottom line is, let's go ahead and run through this right now. Yeah, Ilya Topuria is bounced out. Volkanovski is now the champion. Who would you like? Max Holloway is gone. He's at number 2. Diego Lopez just lost to Volk. You've got Evloev, who should be the number 1 contender. UFC is not happy with him in terms of they just want to see a finish. They want to see a better fight. Do I think that he deserves a title shot? Absolutely. Is he going to get one?
I'm not too sure. Not too sure about that. I actually think that if you're going to take a look at those people and where they're at and everyone's sitting there, Evloev is the logical choice based upon you've seen Yair Rodriguez against Volkanovski when he was the interim champion. He fought him. You know, Volk took care of him pretty handedly. And so you look and you go, okay, how much better has he gotten? Well, he looked really good against Pitbull. You know, he fought a really good fight, but he wasn't able to get rid of Pitbull. So impressive performance, good fight. Not saying it wasn't an impressive performance, but if you're going to look and say, okay, what's going to sell? The next guy is, you know, it's got to be Evloev. It's a matter of he's undefeated. He is a very good wrestler. He does have the ability to put Volkanovski possibly on his backside. Volk's very good at getting back up, but maybe he puts him there and maybe he does some damage. If you're looking at everybody in the roster, you know, you could sit there and say Arnold Allen, well, he hasn't done enough to really get put in that position. He doesn't have the wins behind him that you want to see. He's got, one now, but he's had those losses when he went up to that top level. And so you look and you go, is Leon Murphy, is he ready? I don't think he's ready.
Lerone,
I'm sorry. Lerone Murphy.
Same thing.
Yeah, I know. But he's not ready. I mean, he's
John.
good.
John, not all black people look alike. Okay.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Did I say a fucking name wrong? But Lerone, he's really a talented fighter, but I don't think I think he needs a little bit more to beat Volkanovski right now. So the guy that's there is Evloev. That's the guy.
It's true. I think it is him. And I'm going to throw this out there because a lot of people were talking about it because of his performance over Bryce Mitchell with Jean Silva. It's just too big of a jump. I mean, like
you take a look at, go and take a look at Jean Silva and the people that he's fought. Okay. He went up in weight and fought Drew Dober and things like that. And that's great. But you are making a huge jump from Bryce Mitchell to, which is the best, if you're going to look and say, well, best record wise and everything, that's the best that he has faced. But it's a huge jump from Bryce Mitchell to Volkanovski.
No, absolutely.
And why you can build that if you take it right now. I mean, he is coming off a great win and all that, but it's easy to match up the undefeated fighter, not just undefeated in the UFC, undefeated in his career in Evloev. That's the easiest one, and then give Jean Silva another fight. Top contender. Let's see how he does, and then put him in there. I just think you're pushing it too fast.
No, I
love him.
I 100% agree. You'd be pushing him way too fast. He's not even in the rankings, or he wasn't until he beat Bryce Mitchell.
Yeah, I think he's in the rankings now, isn't he?
He should be to beat Bryce Mitchell at number 13. So he should be. Let me see where he's at.
Yeah, he's 11.
Yeah.
Okay, so they bumped him to 11.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, let's go ahead and take a look. You got Calvin Kattar at now 15, Dan Ige at 14. Let's go on up to where you kind of would figure this out. Brian Ortega is out. He's going to be at 55. Yes. Max Holloway's out. He's going to be at 55. Max is now at number 1. Diego's at number 2. Ilia Topuria, he's dropped 3, but I guess because he hasn't had a fight yet in the 55-pound division, they won't remove him from the rankings, even though he said he's gone. Evloev, you've got him at number 4, which is insane to me. It's the whole. Take a look at who's ahead of him, right? The only one that you can say, okay, if you want to keep him ahead of him, you can say Yair Rodriguez was number 4, Evloev is number 5. All right, so Yair is going to end up being basically, number 1. Evloev be number 2. Diego Lopez number 3. I don't know, but I mean, well, John, we've already seen the fight with Volkanovski and Yair. I know, that's what I said. Yeah, and to be honest, I'm not really interested in seeing, especially the way that the first one had the outcome it did. Yeah. I have no interest in seeing that fight again, at least not right now. I'm not saying I don't want to see it by the end of the year. I'm just simply saying Volk is the type of fighter that wants to stay active and busy. Evloev is been kind of just waiting in the wings, going, "Hey, I'm ready for this title shot." And I think the UFC's biggest fear is that Evloev wins. It might be. But then you've got to be thinking too, like if Evloev wins, we give him Yair, Evloev's going to be able to take Yair down. There'll be some problems on the feet, but he'll eventually get him down. Yeah. Then you put him into like, okay, who would be next? You have Diego Lopez and Evloev do it again? Rematch? Yeah. And then who fights Diego Lopez? Lerone Murphy? Yeah. And then in the wings there, you've got Jean Silva. Jean Silva somewhere in there, maybe Arnold Allen and Jean Silva could be a good fight. Be a great fight. I guess for me, like to start from the top down, Volk and Evloev would be the matchup to make. That's what I believe should be fighting. Just the UFC's afraid of him potentially winning. There's that. But then those two should be the ones that are next fighting in line. And then if I've got Diego Lopez, you have him fight Yair. That I'd like to see that fight happen, only based on the fact they got into it at the presser. You have Yair and you have Lopez. Now that's 2 big fights that you have already set up in the 145-pound division. And then you've got Lerone Murphy, who can fight Yair as well. Or you have Lerone Murphy. Wouldn't put him against Jean Silva only because I wouldn't. Why? You're ruining the buddy. I let it be. I would let it be. John, you've got to, I know we're not boxing, but I would love to see the two of them meet after or for the title or after one loses. Okay, let's go ahead and have that fight.
Okay.
That's kind of been the UFC's way. Am I correct?
Yeah. In a lot of instances, yes, it is. But yeah, you got to figure Jean Silva is not undefeated as a fighter. He's undefeated in the UFC, but he's not undefeated as a fighter. So,
No, I understand that. Yeah, in the UFC. But here, let me throw this out there, though. Where do you put Aljo? He's kind of like the dark horse in there that can beat all of them at any given night.
On a given night, he can.
Yeah.
He's that talented with his ground skills and everything. I look at Aljo right now, he's sitting at what? They have him at 8 or 9. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little disrespectful if you ask me.
Well, he's coming off of the loss.
Mm-hmm.
And
a very close loss.
Absolutely it was. But that's where he took a little bit of a step back.
Mm-hmm.
But, I look and say, if you wanted to create havoc, Aljamain Sterling against Yair Rodriguez would be a good fight. Interesting fight. On the feet, Yair's better. He's
oh yeah, there's no doubt.
more dynamic, more dynamic,
You said that like as if it was controversial or something.
No.
Okay,
I'm saying it's evident, but on the ground, there's a huge disparity too.
Yeah.
Yair on the ground has come a long way, but he has not come the distance that he needs to be able to stay on the ground with Aljamain. So it's an interesting fight. It's who can keep or put the fight in the position to be successful.
I think though, if we were to, I'm gonna throw this one out there too. Diego Lopez and Aljamain Sterling. Diego coming off the loss, but his only loss has been to obviously Volk now, but then also was Evloev. Yeah. And then that was a close fight. And Aljo and Lopez would be a fun fight. It'd be a fantastic fight.
It would.
Because they'll both get after each other on the ground. But on the feet, though, it's not. I mean, we saw with Diego Lopez that he was looking for the one-punch knockout. And Aljo will make you pay with the takedowns and the control. He'll make you pay if you look for that one-punch knockout. He'll take you down, take your back, potentially submit you. I mean, but then he's obviously Lopez is very crafty on the ground, as we saw with Evloev. Just a fun fight. That would be another fun fight to put together. There's some great matchups in here, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but once Max, Ilya, and Brian are out of there, it'll help me wrap my head around who's going to be coming up, because there's 3 spots there.
Well, if you go in here's your other part that you also you do have Pitbull in there, and they're talking about putting him against Dan Ige, which I think is a great matchup. We talked about that.
Yeah,
we kind of made that one up, and it's a perfect matchup with both guys. They're very similar in styles, very similar as far as the way they.
Well, Patricio, he asked today, he said, look, who do you guys want me to fight? Josh Emmett, Dan Ige, Calvin Kattar, and there was one other, Aljamain Sterling, I think it was the other name.
Okay.
He had 4 guys listed on the list there. And he's not ducking anyone, and I'm looking forward to seeing him fight. I just want, like I said the other night, I want to see him fight guys that bring the most entertaining fights out of him.
That's Dan Ige.
And that's Danny Ige, that's Josh Emmett, and that's Calvin Kattar. Because there'll be stand-up, there'll be a lot of stand-up, there'll be a little bit of grappling and wrestling, but not too much, more getting back to the feet. At 38 years old, we saw like Josh Emmett struggled with the wrestling. We saw Michael Chandler struggle with the wrestling. Patricio Pitbull does not want to wrestle a whole lot. He will jump the gilly every once in a while, but I'd like to see him matched up against guys that are fan favorites. We want to get the best, most entertaining fights we can get out of him at 38 years old.
Okay, I agree. But you also have, if you look at the UFC, you open their page today, it's welcome Aaron Pico. There's another guy. So you can take Aaron Pico and start plugging him in with certain people on that list. Again, another great matchup that you can put, him against Calvin Kattar. That would be a great fight. Both in the stand-up are outstanding. Both have power. Both of them, are crafty. Obviously, Pico's got the better wrestling, but doesn't mean he's going to use it.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah, Pico's got the power. He's not a big 45-pounder. 45-pounder. That's the only thing that kind of concerns me. Some of these guys are enormous. With Pico, he's not a big guy. He's not big for the weight class.
No.
So, but he does possess a lot of power. He does possess that, and he can wrestle. He can wrestle his ass off. So
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I guess for me, I'm looking forward to seeing how this all shakes out once those guys leave the division and go to 55, because they're going to add some new blood to that 55-pound division. That should be fun. Max being there, and you've got Brian Ortega going up there. I mean, it's gonna be fun. Plus Ilya and all the other matchups you could potentially make with the guys that have been there at the longest at the top. Dustin's retiring, but you got Justin Gaethje who's still there. You got Charles, you got Olives, he's still there. So there's matchups to be made with the guys that have been maintaining that top 1, 2, 3, 4 position for the 55-pounders to get in there and mix it up. Challenge yourself.
I agree.
Before we move on, I want to make sure you guys all remember, hey, we're available on a lot of platforms right now. So if you just for some reason can't get onto the YouTube or whatever it is, we're available on Instagram. Well, my Instagram right now, because
mine doesn't work.
Computers, just like I did on Saturday with the computer system. We also available on Instagram, Twitter, Twitch. What's the other one?
Kick,
TikTok,
Facebook.
Obviously, OnlyFans. We're available on OnlyFans. Look, you guys can follow us over there. It is free. We don't ask for you guys to pay for us to see for you guys to see our feet. Okay, you're all good. All right, but you guys, we are available on all these platforms. So if you're scrolling through, make sure you guys subscribe to us over there. We've been growing over there for a while. We've partnered up with them it's been about a little over 2 years now. So we had a good partnership with them over at OnlyFans. And if you guys also are on there, follow all the other fighters that are on there. You got Chris Cyborg, Demetrius Johnson, Luke Rockhold, all the other fighters on there. So go ahead and check them out. Anyways, also too, become a member here on our YouTube channel if you can. And it's a $4.99 membership or $1.99 membership. And we do giveaways once a month. And we'll be doing that here shortly. So just wanted to follow up with you guys on that. And also drink Element if you guys haven't. Use the link down below in the descriptions and check it out. What else you got for us, Dave?
I'm just going to roll to this real quick, guys. Check this out.
Hey, this is Big John McCarthy. I was a referee for 25 years. I was involved with mixed martial arts at the very beginning and helped set up the rules. Now, I teach a command course. You will be able to get in the cage with fighters. There will be other referees that you see on TV all the time. They're teaching you. Now, there is the referee course, which is a 3-day course. There's the judging course, which is a 2-day course. And then there is the fantasy camp, which is your ability to come in, learn everything that you want, but not have the pressure of testing. If you have an interest in MMA, this is the course for you. Go to MMAreferee.com, June 20th through the 22nd, and it will be held at Extreme Couture in Las Vegas. I hope to see you there. Yep, on June 20th to the 22nd, come see us for the command course at Extreme Couture in Vegas. Well, there's also something going on this week. No UFC, but there is the PFL. And the PFL has actually a really good lineup of fights headed in their world. What are they calling it now? The World Tournament, 2025 World Tournament.
Yeah, I don't really keep up with what they're calling them, but this card, the last card that was last week, it fell apart.
Yeah,
they had too many fighters that fell out. They had to replace a lot of fighters. A lot of backup fighters came in, replacement fighters, and it wasn't put together as well. The original lineup, when I saw it, I was like, man, this is going to be a stacked 135-pound tournament. It's going to be fun to watch, and it all just fell apart. This situation, though, right now, it seems like it's all holding together. Let's go ahead and talk, man. PFL, the main event is Impa Kasanganay versus Fabian Edwards.
Which is nice because it's at their new weight class of 185 pounds, which is great to see.
Yeah, but then they didn't have the champion, which is...
He's just sitting there.
Yeah, he's sitting there. So hopefully
good.
Johnny Eblin gets a fight real soon. Exciting fighter. Love watching Johnny fight, man. He's a great guy too. Inside the cage, he's fun to watch. Outside the cage, he's hilarious, man. Yeah, love hanging out with him. Yeah. But John, how do you see this fight going though with Impa Kasanganay and Fabian Edwards?
This is actually a really good matchup when you look at it. Both of them like to be on their feet when it comes to the fight. Fabian is very much like his brother Leon. He's fast. He's accurate. He's got power. He can knock people out. Knock Lyoto Machida out quickly. He is he's a good athlete. You're looking at Impa. Impa's that guy, good athlete, goes about, grinding on people. He gets into in tight because he's not that big of a frame, but he gets into the, close range and just opens up with big shots. And he's going to have to do that against Edwards. He's going to have to make it to where Edwards is uncomfortable in the fight. That's not easy to do, but he can do it. He's got the skill set to do it. I think it's a great matchup. This is a 50-50, pick 'em fight.
Yeah, I'm just wondering because Johnny Eblen's got wins over both of them, twice on Fabian, once on Impa.
Yeah.
The matchup though, stylistically, it's a fun fight for both of us. Can Fabian handle the pressure? He had a hard time handling Johnny Eblen's pressure. Impa is a pressure fighter, but he's a pressure fighter at 205.
Yeah.
Will he be the same pressure fighter at 185 pounds? Because when he fought Johnny Eblen, he got tired in the later round. That's how that fight ended up, where he ended up losing that fight, because he was winning that fight, especially early in the fight. He was able to drop Johnny, get Johnny in trouble. Johnny was able to weather the storm and come back and have a great performance to get the rest of the fight won.
But
So
the same thing like you said in other ones, Impa was fighting at 205, and when
Yep.
he took that fight against Johnny Eblen, he took it at 185. That's a 20-pound drop.
Yep.
Okay. And I do think that he had put that muscle on. He had built himself up into that, bulkier light heavyweight, and he had a huge gas tank there. And I think it did affect him, like you said, you spend all that time putting all that weight on and you put it on right, and then you think you're just going to drop it off. Well, it's going to have an impact on your performance, impact on your gas tank, and it did. Here he's going back, but now he's had time to go back. He knew that this weight class was opening up, and he's the one that made the decision whether he wanted to be at 205 or 185, and he took.
So you're agreeing that when Max went from 50,
no, that's a totally different. That's a totally different.
It was a bad idea.
Championship fight. Once again, you were wrong.
I love the John.
How often do you have to be shown to be wrong?
I'm pretty much right. It's pretty much a lot. It's a lot. But look, Fabian he's a sniper though. Super fast with the kicks, very good lateral movement. He's just got to keep his back off the fence. He is someone that tends to slow down as the fight goes on, and Impa can put that pressure on him. He fights a lot like his brother. He does slow down. Like Leon is someone that he's got the explosive power. He's got fast footwork. He can do all these things. But as they get into the momentum of the fight, they do start to try to control the pace and the tempo with their speed and power. In this situation, Impa is someone that normally walks through power punches and just kind of keeps pushing forward. And it becomes a problem, I think, for someone like a Fabian Edwards. This is only a 3-round fight. It's going to be a fun fight. I kind of feel like either Fabian gets him out of there by knockout, or Impa just grinds on him and gets the decision. What do you think?
It's the question of how much range can Fabian keep in this fight. The longer, the more to the outside he is, that he can keep Impa at that distance and just sharp shoot and pick him apart, it's his fight. If Impa's able to get inside and move himself inside, which he's done against bigger guys, throughout his career, he has a good opportunity to put some damage on him and slow Fabian Edwards down. And like you said, that one of the biggest things is Fabian tends to float towards the cage, that fence. He lets people back him off, and then he'll explode and do things. He can't do that too often with Impa. Impa's going to press him up against the cage, and then he's going to be stuck there.
John, I feel like the PFL lost that year and the excitement of when these guys were all brought over. They lost that whole year, and then now we're getting to see the fights that we should have saw last year. But now the problem is they've pissed off all their best fighters, and now they all want to leave. Yeah. And my concern is that, like, are these fighters going to be motivated to fight for this promotion now, because they've lost that advantage of excitement from the fans, and now the fighters, are they going to still have that excitement to get in there and fight?
Well, there's so many elements in this whole thing, and you can sit there and look at the UFC and what occurred with the Apex, and why they did the Apex and how it worked out during COVID, and it worked out well for them. But then they held on to it, and they've continued to do it, where now you have fighters going, I don't want to fight in the Apex. Okay. And now you take a look at where this card's at. This is on a soundstage. This is Universal Studios in Orlando. Yeah. Okay. So they don't have a big crowd there, and it does have an effect. We did the same thing with Bellator when, in the bubble with COVID and stuff, an empty arena is a lifeless, entity. It's just, hearing the sounds that you hear that are not normally a part of the fighting game is cool in some ways, but it's also depressing. it's also something that's sad. And, these guys, Impa has fought in huge crowds. Fabian has fought in front of huge crowds. A lot of these guys have, and it's when you're in there and there's, 200 people inside, the location. That's just not, I'm not saying those fans aren't, excited and they're not yelling stuff, but there's a huge difference between having 200 and 18,000.
Yeah, very true. Look, I was lucky enough to fight almost half my fights in my hometown. So, I mean, I had tremendous support from family members to fans to people at the gyms. I mean, it was amazing. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it does.
There's been several times where it just felt like I wasn't going to be able to win the fight. I was struggling. The Pat Healy fight is a classic example. I mean,
I remember that one.
Yeah, I got photos of you in it.
Oh, okay.
It just, there was moments in that fight I wanted to quit, and just hearing the crowd go crazy, just thinking too, like looking off to the side, seeing friends that I had trained with, seeing people that that I had done business with, and they're sitting there cage side. It's like, no, I can't stop now. Like it makes a difference.
Sure does.
And look, as much as I think the Apex is a good thing for like the Dana White Contender Series,
Perfect.
All those
Perfect
things.
for that.
If you want to throw an occasional fight in there once or twice a year, I get it for your up and comers, and maybe have a big time main event on it or something, just to kind of, I don't know, cut costs or whatever it is. Or I like this is what people talk about when they talk about the Apex. Tickets are not any cheaper there. They're expensive. But what there is that you can look across and you'll see Megan Fox, and you'll see, a musician or top, an a celebrity across that's in there as well. And they're just sitting on couches, hanging out, everyone having drinks. And it's kind of a cool little setup for those that want like
it's cool for the fans.
Yeah, it's cool for the fans.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're also paying, they're not cheaper tickets just because they're at the Apex.
No.
So, but that being said, the next fight though, Godzi Rabadanov versus Mark, how do you say his last name? Diakase.
Yeah.
This is going to be a fun fight because Mark is just fast. He actually doesn't mind wrestling. I think he's a little, not going to say outclassed, but he's going to be working from behind in this fight.
I agree.
Rabadanov can do it everywhere. He's fast himself, but a very smart fighter. He's not a big 55-pounder, but he fights smart. He comes out of the Habib camp. Look, everyone thinks because you're from Dagestan that you all know how to wrestle. He knows how to wrestle, but he likes to knock people out. He wants to stand and bang. He wants to put you on your ass. Yeah. Train with him, spar with him, all these things. He is a great fighter, and he's well-rounded, and he puts it all together very well with a very high fight IQ.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think this fight comes down to, like you said, Godzi's not that big of a lightweight. Now, he won the tournament.
Yep.
He won the championship for the PFL in 2024. So he had the very a good run. He had the very nice payday with the $1 million check and everything.
A milli.
But the size difference
Dave got it. John didn't get it.
Yeah, I got it.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah. Mark is a big 155-pounder. He's long. He's got length to him. He is fast, like you said, and he needs to. And he's gotten kind of into wrestling. He's gotten into, I like to, now work towards taking, my opponents down. Stay away from it, man. You want to stay at length. You want to just use your jab and use your footwork and frustrate Godzi in this to where he starts, taking chances. That's where I see Diakase having a chance at winning this fight.
Dalton Rosta and Sadabusi. I think Sadabusi is someone here. I think this weight class is perfect for him. They never had 185. Yep. He's huge for 70, but he cuts a ton of weight. He fought at 205 and he had success, but he couldn't get it done in the finals.
No, he broke his thumb.
Oh, get over it.
He broke his thumb in his first one. I know. That was it.
Bottom line is, I think this weight class is perfect for him. A lot of these fighters, they're not actually 205 pounders and they're not 170 pounders. They're that tweener. So this weight class is going to be great for them.
Now, I think, when you take a look at this fight, Dalton Rosta is good everywhere. He's got good stand-up. He's got good power. He's got good wrestling. The question is sometimes, is he going to get tired when someone is matching what he's able to do and stuff? Sadabu is a much better defensive wrestler than people give him credit for now. At one point he was not good with his defensive takedown abilities, but now, he went to Extreme Couture. He did a lot of work there. He learned how to, dig for the underhooks, how to get himself up against against the cage, how to use the cage for balance points. He does a really good job with it. He is nasty in the stand-up.
Yeah.
His stand-up is fast. It's powerful. He's got great kicks. He's got a beautiful question mark kick. He does all kinds of things well. Dalton's got to be very careful of the attacks that Sadabu has on the feet.
It's very true. Sadabu is very crafty on the feet. He is long and lanky. He's got Dalton's going to have to be careful of the push kick up the middle. He's going to be careful of the high kick. He hides his high kick really well behind his punches. Sadabu does. And so it's going to be a fun fight. He's not going to be easy to take down. So Dalton Ross has got to make sure that he's setting up all of his takedowns with his big power shots. He's got power in his hands, as we've seen before. JJ Wilson and Mads Burnell.
Great fight again. I love this matchup. This is at 155. The question here for me is Mads Burnell is a small 155er. JJ started off as a 145 pounder and has had to move up because he had problems making weight at 145. Then he had problems making weight at 155. So he's in that position that, look, he's talented and he's had some really good fights. When you're looking at Mads Burnell, a lot of people are going to say, well, he's a great ground fighter and great ground techniques and stuff. So same with JJ Wilson.
Yeah.
JJ Wilson matches up well with him on the ground. In the stand-up, they go about doing it differently. Mads doesn't have that one punch knockout power, but boy, he's got volume and he goes to the body well and he takes a shot and he walks you down. JJ is a guy, he likes to move a lot. He does have power in his hands. He does have that one punch ability. So this is a great matchup between two guys that are really well-rounded, but do it differently.
Yeah, I think I've said this for the longest. Tall, long, and lanky is the body style for MMA. JJ Wilson has that.
Yeah,
he's tall, long, and lanky for 155. He was huge for 145. Mads Burnell, I've grappled with him, trained with him, fantastic on the ground. I think JJ is just the next step up, and not like in terms of the techniques. It's more just the physical body style of JJ, the length of him, the reverse triangles, the arm bars, the attacks with different ways to body lock you. He's just very crafty on the ground because of his body style. Yeah. And so I think Matt's going to have a hard time with that. JJ will stand with him a little bit, but I don't think he's going to get carried away on the feet. He's going to try to get this fight to the ground and try and control him there.
Yeah.
And that big body to do it.
If you go back and, I believe it was his last, because he hasn't fought for a little bit, but his last fight was in Bellator against Mansour Barnaoui. Mm-hmm. And was a fantastic back and forth. And we know that, Barnaoui is a incredibly good fighter, a guy who gave Islam Makhachev everything that he could handle before Islam went to the UFC. So JJ is that good. JJ's last, thing in competition was against Aljamain Sterling in a grappling tournament that I know he lost on points. Mm-hmm. But that's how good his ground game is. Because if you can stay with Aljamain on the ground, you're doing pretty good.
Clay Collard versus Alfie Davis. I mean, basically what you're going to see is two guys on the feet.
Doing it differently.
Doing things differently. One's going to walk forward, take the shot, and try to land his knockout blow. And the other one's going to, a lot of lateral movement, a lot of like Stephen Thompson, like a Lyoto Machida, just try to touch you, point fight you, and then hopefully the big shot lands and puts you away. But, I mean, neither one of these guys is going to try to shoot a takedown.
No, I don't think so. I think you look at Clay Collard is going to win with his hands, and he's going to win by going to the body. Alfie Davis is going to win with his kicks. He's got a beautiful axe kick that he uses in almost every fight, sets it up well, but he's got great side kicks, and he'll use his kicks. It's normally we say, use your hands to set up your kicks. Alfie does it in reverse. He uses his kicks to set up his hands, and he's good that way. So this is a 155-pound matchup with two strikers that just do it differently. We'll see which one's more successful.
Mike Shipman, Josh Silveira. I mean, going to be a great fight. The two of them are going to take shots, get after it on the feet. Josh Silveira is better on the ground. Mike Shipman.
Josh is the better wrestler.
Yeah, but can he get him down?
Yeah, it's one of those I look and say, yeah, Josh can get Shipman to the ground, but it takes a lot of energy to get it there. He's going to really have to be smart, and when he decides to shoot for it, because Shipman's strong, and if you just shoot a normal shot on him, he's going to stonewall you. Yeah. But Shipman does get himself out of position when he tries to throw big shots, and that's when Josh Silveira should be changing levels and get the easy takedown.
Brent Primus has a alternate fighter that's going to be stepping in because Alexander Shabley is injured and out. So you got Vinicius. How do you say his last name?
Sensi.
Well, I've
Sensi.
never seen him fight. Did he fight in Bellator?
No.
Okay,
He
so
did
I've
not.
never seen him fight, but Brent Primus I've seen multiple times. Fantastic off of his back. Sometimes gets carried away and hangs out down there too long, but he's also got some punching power. The knock on Brent Primus always has been the speed. The speed has always been the problem, and in this situation, how does he match up against Sensei?
Like Sensi is out of King's MMA in California with Rafael Cordero.
Yep,
he's good. He's got a good ground game. He's got a good stand-up game. He's not as good on the ground as Brent Primus.
Mm-hmm.
He's just not. A lot of people, they look and they go, well, he's Brazilian. Yeah, that doesn't mean he's going to be as good. And wrestling-wise, decent, but his stand-up is going to give Primus some problems in the fact that he can land good shots, get in and get out, and just frustrate Primus. And we've seen people like Alexander Shabley frustrated Primus with that same type of attack. And so his whole game plan should be, you know what? I just want to touch to the point where you're now trying so hard to get to me, you're making mistakes, which leaves the openings for me to finish you.
Sounds good. Aaron Jeffrey, I love watching him fight against Ramazanov. It should be a fun fight. Aaron Jeffrey's he's one of those guys. He can stuff takedowns. He likes to stand on the feet. He's not bad on the top for ground and pound. Just a great personality too. He's got the mullet, the curly hair. Reminds me of Joe Dirt, just except it's permed in the back. But he's a fun with the porn stash. Love everything about him, man. Super cool guy. Just fun to be around. I was able to him and I sat next to each other at the Hollywood Hard Rock fights last July, and him and I were taking bets with each other on who was going to take what fight. Johnny Eblin was sitting behind us. We were chatting back and forth, going, "Okay, who do you got? Who you got?" So I think I ended up winning all the bets. Not all the bets. I ended up losing one or two, but overall, I think I walked away with like $4. Not bad.
Okay, there you go. Big money.
Hey, that's whatever, man.
Big winner, baby.
If I see a penny on the ground, I'm picking it up. That's how I am, man. So I was built that way. Yeah. Tell me, what do you think about Ramazanov?
Look, he was undefeated except for one fighter. The guy, he can wrestle, and he's very persistent. He's in good shape. He's just lost to a guy in Musayev twice that, he's just better. He's actually as good a wrestler as Ramazanov, and he's a better striker by far. And so Ramazanov is aggressive. He's got good grappling, and when he gets people on the ground, he does damage to them. Jeffries is a very good defensive wrestler, but we did see, if you go back in time to Bellator and he fought John Salter, being a very good grappler, a very good wrestler, was able to take him down and control him on the ground. Well, if he allows that same type of thing to happen with Ramazanov, he's going to have another long night.
Yeah, but I could say the flip side of that is like Austin Vanderford was able to take him down, but couldn't hold him down. He came back and beat Austin Vanderford. Aaron Jeffries did.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess it really just comes down to the style of wrestling is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Plus the other thing too, with John Salter, he's a very controlling person when it comes to grappling and positioning. A lot of the wrestlers have a hard time. Guys like Mike Van Arsdale, they're not very good at controlling the positions, right? Austin Vanderford's good at controlling positions. He's good at getting on top. He had a hard time holding Aaron Jeffries down. Sure. So, I mean, it really depends on the style of wrestler, I think. But Aaron Jeffries has got the remedy for a lot of them. So this should be a fun fight.
Yeah.
All right, John, there's only that one last fight. I don't know if you want to chat about it. All right.
The only thing to say about this whole card is the fact that Alexander Shabley is off of it is a tremendous loss.
It is. I mean, I want to say this. If you guys haven't seen Alexander Shabley fight, you guys got to go check him out, man. He's a fantastic fighter. He's out of American Top Team, trains with Dustin Poirier and a lot of the guys out at 155 pounds there at American Top Team. I really would like to see him make waves. His last fight was his loss to Usman Nurmagomedov. It was a good fight, just came up short. The speed, the reach, I think, and the kicks were giving him a little bit of a problem, but overall, it was a really good fight. But I'd like to see him either take a step in the right direction, either leave and go to the UFC, or let's just start matching him up with more fights as fast as possible. Because he to me right now would be like a wasted talent if we didn't get to see him fight more.
Yeah, I agree.
Dave, let's go ahead and take some of these super chats that you got.
Okay. Giovanni Perez, he asks, Big John, do you have any more Jeff Blatnick stories? Was hilarious when you spoke on the perspiration. Blatnick doesn't get enough recognition nowadays.
No, Giovanni, I agree with you. He does not get enough recognition because I used to say it all the time is, people will talk about, who started things and, where did this come from and everything. And there's all kinds of things about, in fact, when I was on Joe Rogan's podcast, he says, I heard that you're the one that came up with MMA. And I go, the person that pushed MMA and made it to where people, actually bought into it was Jeff Blatnick. And all the way from, I started with Jeff at UFC 4, and that was his first show. And that's when, we started, being friends, and we started working out together. And he was always a frustrated wrestler because, on his back, it was bad. It was bad. But when he was on top of you, he was heavy. But,
And sweaty.
Oh my God, horrible. But Jeff Blatnick was a guy that, I always say that Joe Rogan did a fantastic job of talking for the UFC when he came in and was the color commentator. Well, Jeff Blatnick did the same thing before. And I always say that, the UFC stole Jeff's credibility. And when I say that, they stole it in the fact that they understood, hey, I've got an Olympic gold medalist here. And Jeff was willing to give that credibility to him by talking about how good these athletes were, how this was not about, brawling. This was about technique, and how, all these guys were just fantastic as far as what they were capable of doing. And Jeff Blatnick deserves so much credit. Now, I will say that, I never care about, things like, Hall of Fames and stuff with the UFC and things like that. It's all great. And I love when, Amanda Nunes, another one, I totally deserves it. It's great to see her going it. But, I kind of helped play a part in helping Jeff's name get into the UFC, and that was after he passed. And they put him in the Hall of Fame, and they should have, because he had a big part in keeping the UFC afloat when there was bad times. And he did a fantastic job of doing it. And I miss him.
No. Dave, you missed one up at the very top, so it was Maximo. Whoops, I think it also fell off my feed as well.
Oh, it fell off my feed then.
Sorry, Maximo.
Yeah, Maximo. It was a question about Matt Hughes, but I can't find it right now, so we must have missed it. Let's go ahead and roll on down to the next one.
Shiz Akhmedov. Sup, guys? What are your thoughts about Conor McGregor fighting in bare knuckle? Isn't Conor going to get badly hurt, especially when he gets hit in the face, and probably will lose by knockout at his age?
Wow. I'll let you talk on it. You go ahead.
Well, I mean, first off, he's not going to be able to fight there. His contract with the UFC is there. They're not going to allow him to fight there. I think the meeting between Dave Feldman, Dave and Dana White. It seemed like they were trying to make a push to try either merge or let him buy it or be involved to get it basically like all into the unit, maybe put it on the UFC Fight Pass, whatever it was. There was a meeting for something. Obviously, the meeting didn't go as planned. I think Dave wanted to keep it, and basically Conor decided to step in and buy a portion of it or invest into it or be part of it or something along those lines. He's not going to be able to fight in there. UFC will keep that one fight or two fights that they have available, and that's it. But he's not fighting in bare knuckle fighting.
Yeah, you got to figure this, and we talk about it all the time. Oh my God, every fight, every day that you're a fighter, that you're not in the gym training and getting better, someone else is. And to sit there and here's the problem for Conor. Conor doesn't want to just come in back into the UFC and fight, a nobody, but he doesn't want to fight someone that's a bad matchup for him either. And the UFC is in a position where they can sit there and they have 2 fights on a contract, and they can offer him those shitty fights. And when I mean shitty fights, a bad opponent for him. Okay. And that's an opponent that has been training and has been getting better, while Conor has really not. And, and I'm not putting Conor down in any fashion. I loved watching him fight. I loved watching when he did stuff. He was great for the sport. But there comes a point where, like every fighter that we talk about, when, they're not getting better. In fact, now they're training to try to stay close to what they once were. And I just, I'm being honest when I say Conor's never going to be able to fight in bare knuckle because the UFC has a contract on him. They're going to offer him shitty fights. He's going to turn those fights down. And every time he turns that fight down, it extends the length on the contract for them to be able to offer him another fight. And when he turns that fight down, it just extends again. And it's a shitty situation. It would be nice if the UFC would just let him go, but they're not going to do that because you're not going to let go of someone that can go and make a lot of money for somebody else. And I don't see Conor fighting in bare knuckle, even though I think he would like to. I'm not saying he wouldn't want to. I just don't think he's ever going to have the opportunity.
Yeah, I think in theory he would like to, even if he did have the opportunity. But I just don't know if he'd actually get to the fight. No different than the Chandler situation. Just couldn't get there. So
Yep.
I can see you got something pulled up there. You got Burns versus Morales.
Yep. Next fight.
I don't like what they're doing to Gilbert Burns, man.
No.
Giving him the young guys, the studs, all of these things. It's a little upsetting to me because I like Gilbert, man. Great guy.
This is a rough one, and it is. It's one of those you're looking. Gilbert is one of those guys now that he's not getting better.
No.
He's staying in the gym trying to maintain where he's at and stuff, and he's a phenomenal fighter. And I love him as the way that he, goes about the sport, his love for not only the sport of MMA, but jiu-jitsu and a passion that he has and the way that he teaches it and everything. Gilbert Burns is as good a person, inside the cage and outside of the cages that you can find. Yeah, unfortunately, he's getting older, and this is a young stud.
Yeah, this will be a tough fight for him for sure.
It's going to be a tough one.
The reach, the speed, the power of Morales, and his ability to
just the athleticism.
Yeah, at this stage in Gilbert Burns' career, Gilbert is phenomenal on the ground, but we see it all the time. As they get older, they struggle to get the fight there. When they do get it there, they're not the same as they were when they were younger with the aggressiveness and the attacks and the submissions. All of those things, they all fall by the side because we start to fall in love with our stand-up. It's fun. It's also less work. John.
Yeah, it is. Less work.
What else you got for us there, Dave?
Next fight here, Cheeto versus Bautista, June 7th at 360 UFC 316.
Interesting.
This is a great fight, and this is one where Mario Bautista, has the rap of he was boring against Jose Aldo. He wasn't fighting to win. He was fighting to let the time go by. I can understand why people are, feeling that way about it. But he is a good young fighter. But he's going to end up being in a position where Cheeto's going to make him fight. Cheeto is a guy that, he goes out there and he slings leather to try to hurt you. And so Cheeto's, he's not going to be able to take those moments and just relax and everything. He's always going to have to be on guard with it. So I think this is a great matchup. I like this as a matchup by the UFC. I think it's smart.
Yeah, I think it's smart as well. I think Vera, Cheeto Vera needs to get back on track. He needs to just, kind of get settled back into where he's at. He has another run in him for sure. Bautista, though, being young and up and coming, I think it's gonna be for a fun fight. We're gonna see how it works out, but I've always been a fan of Cheeto. Cheeto's just fun to watch. I get a little panicky kind of watching him because throw some punches, throw some all
there's
drop
times.
the person, right? And so it kind of gets me excited. But it's always that what happens if he doesn't land the shot? Well, then he loses the round. So then you're just as somebody who likes to put a little money down on some fights every once in a while, at betustv.com. It just really drives me absolutely insane. I have a hard time putting money on him, John. It's driving me crazy.
Yeah. And this would be one. This is gonna be hard to put money on him. This is a tough one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What else you got, Dave?
All right, last fight announcement here so far this week.
I'll say Denis versus Alvarez.
Yeah.
Ooh.
This is a good one.
Yeah.
The UFC is really coming up with some good matchups. Alvarez is absolutely lethal in both on the feet and on the ground. And we've seen that Saint Denis is a die on his shield, guy. He will not give up. He was doing a great job against Dustin Poirier in that loss. He just got caught with a shot, and that's happened with a lot of people with Dustin. So, but he's I was worried after his first UFC fight that he was done because of the beating he took, and he just took that, threw it to the side, and just started bringing it out for everyone. So that's a great match.
Let him die. That's why.
Yeah, dude, it was close.
I mean, we were talking about after that fight. I said, I don't know if that fighter will ever be the same because I'd never heard of him up until that fight.
Yeah.
I was like, man, he took a freaking beating. And then what did he do? He rattled off like 4 or 5 wins in a row.
Yep.
So fantastic, man. Alvarez is tough though, man. Both these guys seem to be extremely big for the weight.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially Alvarez,
Yeah.
in my opinion. Alvarez is like
6'2",
6'2", 6'3".
Yeah, like that, right?
He's up there, man. And he uses that length really well in his stand-up, and he's got a submission game. So we'll see. It's going to be that's a good go.
We're going to find out who can land what shot. How tall is he?
6'2".
Yeah,
6'2".
Yeah.
Jeez, man. I
At
can't.
155?
That's huge. That's huge. Yeah. You got anything else for us, Dave?
Alejandro asks, Chandler versus Connor, one last dance for both? ?
No.
There's no interest. They're just, you take a look and you go, okay, so, I mean, Michael Chandler's coming off of how many losses now? And it's basically the same for Connor, coming off of how many losses. So you're gonna sell that fight for what? Oh, they were coaches on The Ultimate Fighter. They both were really good at one time in their career. I'm gonna have to pay both guys a lot of money for the fight. And is it worth it? It's just not worth it. The UFC, it's not going to do anything for the UFC.
Yeah, I have no interest in seeing that fight whatsoever. There's 2 fights that I would like to see Connor in. There's the Paddy Pimblett fight, which I think we should talk about next, is what's next for Paddy Pimblett. But I'd like to see Connor and Paddy get after it, because Connor coming out saying that he bet against Paddy, he took Michael Chandler. There's that little like, hey man, you're supposed to be kind of on my side kind of thing going on. I'm the young up and comer from this side of the pond, kind of trying to make a name for myself. You're supposed to be supportive. There's that, and then the Nate Diaz fight. Those are really kind of the only 2 fights that I really care to see Conor McGregor in. I have no desire to see him fight anybody else. It's over. It's over. But I mean, there's that Nate Diaz nostalgia kind of thing. They deserve to do the 3rd. And if you're going to hand the torch off to somebody, hand it off to Paddy. Dave, you look like you had something you wanted to say.
Yeah, I was going to say, devil's advocate though, does Connor versus Chandler do more as a pay-per-view than any other pay-per-view so far this year?
No, I don't think so.
I don't, even with Connor as the name out there, because Chandler's not going to bring anything.
Connor and Paddy does way more than any other pay-per-view out there.
Yeah, it's a rough one. Take a look. Your favorite fighter, Dave, was calling out Paddy there. Just after he fought
Colby the Shill,
Colby the Shill, going after the 155-pound fighter, and talking shit. It's like, you better be careful, Colby. You're talking about him fighting people that have losing records. You better not be next, because you're the other guy that's got losing record. And how many of your last fights? So,
saw that
Paddy would not be an easy fight for him.
Yeah, Paddy would not be, especially if he came down to 55.
Oh, he ain't coming down to 55.
I mean, there was talk for a little bit that he is not a big 50 or 70 pounder.
Yeah, that's a 15-pound drop.
John, I know I'm bad at math, but I got that figured out, buddy.
15 pounds.
It is.
It's always with those 10 pounds. It's like, it's 10 pounds, 10 pounds, 10 pounds.
Yeah.
Then you're getting up into it's 15 pounds, 20 pounds. Oh, it's a huge difference.
So Paddy making the jump up to the number 8 now. Where do you see him, and who would you want to see him fight? Because honestly, in that division right now, he's like the new fresh blood. He's the guy that just made a huge splash by beating Michael Chandler.
Oh, he did.
He did it with the finish, everything. It just dominated Michael Chandler in that position. Who do you see him potentially matching up well against?
Matching up well, that's the question.
Or who would you want to see him fight? Let me put that one first, and then who do you think is a good matchup for him?
Well, I'm in the same position as you. If I'm going to try to do a money fight, it would be him against Connor. It's the whole England versus Ireland thing. It's got everything. They both talk, and it would just be entertaining. The whole buildup would be fun, but I don't think the UFC is going to put Conor in that position. So if I'm looking and I'm the UFC and I'm wanting to build on Paddy, I'm looking at saying, well, do I put him against one of the guys that's above him in the rankings, or do I put him with someone that's right there with him in the rankings? You know, I honestly think, you know, you want a fun fight, one that would be actually, you know, entertaining. Moicano against Paddy Pimblett would be a fun fight. I think style wise and everything, they both are good in, you know, the same way on the feet. They're both good on the ground. I think, you know, size wise, they actually will match up pretty well. But if you're going to sit there and say, okay, I need Paddy to, you know, go against someone that's for real. I don't think that he's ready for someone like a Max Holloway. I don't think that would be a good fight for him. I don't think the Justin Gaethje fight would be a good fight for him. There's just differences in that level that he's a step away from. You could look and say the Dan Hooker fight would be interesting, and it would. Dan Hooker is a savage, and it would be a good fight. But there is a possibility Dan Hooker beats him in that fight. So if you're the UFC, is that what you want to do?
Yeah, I'd rather have him lose to a Charles Oliveira or
Yes.
a Monsarukian or.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me throw one more big money fight out there.
Go.
Ilia Topuria
against Paddy.
Yep. They don't like each other. There's been words back and forth. I mean, the Conor fight, obviously, to me, would be the number one spot. But number two, Ilia gets a win against, if he does win, he gets a win against 55-pounder, and they can fight for the title next, just to show that, hey, I can beat a 55-pounder. And Paddy, obviously, like, hey, wants to shut the little guy up. I mean, he's been very clear about how he thinks he's, you know, he's a little leprechaun or whatever.
He's a sausage.
He's a sausage. So, I mean, to me, that would be probably the next biggest, I think, fight for Paddy Pimblett. Would be
a good one.
Fight. But if I'm gonna pick my fight, that say those two guys are not available, they're not in the market for that, is I would jump him right to Charles Oliveira. Because the Dan Hooker is, I know it's a tough fight. But if he wins, well, you know what? Dan's been through it all. Dan's, you know, coming off the injury, all these things. People are gonna make excuses. Give him somebody that, you know, will bring the best out of him. I think Max and Dustin are fighting each other, is what it seems like or sounds like from what I'm gathering from other people. So the Gaethje fight, if he did get Gaethje down, there could be a chance he could beat him.
Oh, he could beat him there.
Could be a chance. He's not going to be as easy to take down, but on the feet, that's not where you want to be.
No.
Not with Justin Gaethje. The Charles Oliveira fight, it's a little bit of both. I mean, like, physically strong, Charles doesn't seem to be, but the way he handled Chandler in terms of the wrestling and all that, who knows? But I think a lot of that had to do with the size, not the size, but like his height, you know, lift Chandler's leg up and get the takedowns and scoop and lift. Who knows? But I think the Paddy Pimblett fight to me is a very interesting fight with Charles Oliveira. I'd probably look to make that fight.
You could look, you know, just go off of, you know, common opponent being Michael Chandler.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Charles was all over him, but he wasn't able to get rid of him. Paddy was.
Yeah. Interesting. All right, what else you got for us there, Dave?
Let's see. So there was an exchange last week between Ariel Helwani and Donn Davis. It was after the Ariel had put out something basically talking about like the GFL's cancellation and PFL like not paying fighters enough, and just the kind of state of MMA and the competition and all that. So Donn Davis, you know, kind of ticked off. Hold on, I'm just gonna share this so everyone else can see what I'm looking at. So Ariel puts out the video. Donn Davis replies to the video saying, "This kind of misreporting hurts MMA fighters and MMA industry. Ariel Helwani is wrong about PFL fighter compensation. PFL average fighter pay is up. PFL fighter roster payroll is up. His clickbait is a disservice to fighters and fans as well. PFL MMA, who serves both." Ariel replies and says, "You're in the midst of one of the worst PR runs in the history of combat sports. I can't open this app without seeing one of your top stars complain about the state of your company." I gotta open this thing so I can. Do you want me to read this whole thing?
Go for it. Go for it.
I'm the least of your problems, but take issue with but I take issue with you claiming my information is incorrect. Are you paying the same to the tournament winners? No, not even close. Did you ask Bellator fighters to rework contracts? Yes. Did you cancel events last year? Yes. Are you holding events at Universal Studios circa WCW in 1994? Look it up. I know you're new to this, thus generating little to no gate revenue. Yes. In fact, it continues to baffle me at how few tickets you're able to sell in America after all these years. I've asked you to come on my show. What is it, 5-6 times now to talk about some of these things and your upcoming fights, and you continue to refuse. Why is that, Donn? The only one who's been a disservice to this sport are the Johnny come lately promoters who think they can ride this MMA wave by convincing investors to gamify the fight game. Season, standing, playoffs, nonsense. You know everything I said was true. Continue writing posts on LinkedIn to your current or potential investors. Surely continue talking about Fight Matrix. I'll continue to tell the truth. So Ariel writes that.
Someone's losing friends here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Look, go back to the very beginning. He basically said, like, hey, your fighters' pay is down. Well, that's not actually true. That's not true. What it is he took over all the fighters from Bellator and their pay is up. So not only that, in terms of the tournament, they're getting paid less. They're actually not getting paid less because they've got fighters that are in there that are actually getting their actual real fight purses. Whereas if you were in the tournament before, it was totaling the $1 million.
That's right.
There was a couple of fighters like Kayla Harrison who had a set fee that she made when she fought in the tournament, and then plus the $1 million on top of it. Other fighters are not getting that. Weren't getting that. They were getting it was like 20 and 20 or 50 and 50, whatever it was. It equaled up to $1 million. They got the rest if they won the whole thing. So that's not really true either. So no, not everything you said was true. I guess for me, this is where I kind of have a little bit of an issue. And look, and I'm not on Donn Davis's side. Very rarely am I ever. And I'm not. I'm not in the way he handled. What is true, Ariel is true about. He's got one of the best PR. He's one of the worst PRs going on right now. Horrible. Whoever's running him and allowing him to get in front of the mic and say the things he says. Oh yeah, to be honest, I really don't watch MMA. What? What are you talking about?
Yeah,
so there's not only
not
that,
a good look.
but you're on one of the worst PR runs in the sport, in the history. You took it over. It just didn't come out right. That's 100% true. You should have done what you're doing right now. You should have done that a year ago. But I guess lastly, what I'm going to say though, John, is Ariel Helwani is not employing fighters. He's actually helping. Donn Davis is helping these fighters, put food on the plate, feed their families.
There you go.
So until someone else is doing that, I'm not trying to tear Donn Davis down. Like for me, I want all these fighters to make money. I want them to have a home to go. Look, the more promotions that we destroy with the media and talk shit about, the less fighters will have activity to go ahead and get into the UFC.
Josh, one of the points is that the fighters can't get fights. A lot of these guys are asking to leave because they can't get fights.
Well, okay, so look, we all know this though, is managers have a tendency to sometimes get in the way of fighters getting fights. Like I've heard countless times where managers didn't even offer the fight to the fighter because they knew that they didn't want their fighter fighting that person. So
do you think that's the case for Patricio and Aaron Pico?
No, I think with Aaron Pico, his contract was up. So he was just waiting to leave. It had nothing to do with anything else. Like his last fight was
the PFL wanted to keep Aaron Pico.
Yeah.
Johnny Eblin, is that the case with Johnny Eblin?
Johnny Eblin just signed a new contract.
Want to keep Johnny Eblin.
They do want to keep him, but they just signed a new contract with Johnny Eblin before the buyout had happened. So he's got like a list of fights. I think he's got like 6 more fights left on his contract.
Cyborg saying she can't get fights.
Yeah, Cyborg is a unique situation because they don't really have women at that weight class anymore. So what do you do? I feel like
for like a Cyborg, is it you let her go or is he holding her hostage?
I don't know. I honestly believe you should let her go. But I said the same thing about Aaron. There's certain fighters that look, if you don't have the weight class, let them go. But look, they started the 135-pound division. They started the 185-pound division. I don't know how I feel about them not being in the tournament. It should be Patchy Mix in the tournament. Should be Johnny Eblin in the tournament. Or who do you have for them to fight? At least announce like, hey, we're looking to put one of these guys together with this person. So then it gives everybody a little bit of peace of mind. It keeps the media quiet. But like I said, like I was trying to say with just answer me this, John. If Donn Davis and the PFL goes away, which one has more of an impact? If Helwani goes away or the PFL goes away, which one has more of an impact on fighters feeding their families?
Well, that's an easy one, and that's the real thing here. And this is nothing against Ariel.
No, not at all.
Ariel he's a journalist, he's a reporter. He does a great job with his show, but he doesn't do anything to put money on the table for fighters. The PFL, Donn Davis and his group, you may not like some of the things that he's doing, but he's given a home and a workplace for a lot of fighters here to, do their thing, get better at their sport, and make good money while they're doing it. And they're making good money. It's not like they're not making good money. He pays, and he's paying well, especially in the tournament if you win it, because it's now instead of the $1 million, it's 500,000. But like you said, a lot of these guys are going to be making way over the $1 million based upon what their normal pay is if they get to that final fight like that. So, to sit here and say, oh, well, you're not doing anything to help, the sport. Yes, he is. Donn Davis is doing a lot to help the sport because the sport needs more than just the UFC. And that's, again, I'm not saying anything bad about the UFC. The UFC itself would say we need other promotions.
Yeah, where you're going to build that young talent that they can absorb, that will make runs and people have recognition. Like,
that's it.
They want a PFL. They want a Bellator.
Yes.
They're not anywhere near catching them. Yeah. So all you're doing is you're actually putting fighters on TV, giving them the name recognition that they can build their brand, and then eventually they're going to try to come over. And when they do, we can do something with them. It's just unfortunate, guys. Like right now, they wanted Pico because Pico's still young, 29 years old, has a name for himself. 28, 29, built himself up. Patricio Pitbull, they were a little bit more hesitant on because he's 38 years old.
And that's understandable.
That's very understandable. If he hadn't been the multiple time world champion and the pillar of Bellator, they would never have signed him.
No,
never. So, and look, on what I said, I was not trying to take a dig at Ariel. I actually do like Ariel. I know we've had, back and forth before. This has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact that Donn Davis, you're right, is on the worst PR run ever. Okay. And what he did when he took over the organization, it just showed he has no grasp of how to run a promotion. He's great at running money. He's great at earning money or raising money. He's just not good at running the athletes. I thought when they brought Mike Hogan over that it was going to be taken care of, but they quickly were like, no, we're not allowing Mike to do this, this, and this. Okay. Whatever, forever, whatever reasons. But the bottom line is fighters are feeding their families. They're paying their mortgages. They are living a lifestyle that they want to live. And the UFC, like you said, needs the PFL. They need places for their fighters to be built. Otherwise, they'll just keep doing more Dana White Contender Series. And we're going to see lower level guys in the UFC because they don't have opportunities on places like this to build up against tougher guys. They pay a little bit more money.
Yeah, you're talking about the difference of here, as simple as it gets. Here's the difference. A regional guy, a grassroots or a regional show guy, also has a job. He's the guy that's, the diesel mechanic, from 9 to 5, or he's the, down at the Chrysler Jeep Ram dealership, selling cars, whatever it is. He's got a job because he doesn't get paid enough fighting to be able to have a living. The guys in the PFL, they're making enough money, they can make a living. They don't have to do anything other than go train, go to the gym, train, and get better. And that's what the sport needs. It needs to have all these different levels, but you need a level other than just the UFC to have people that are just professional fighters. This is what they do. This is how they make their living. The PFL is giving them that. Unfortunately, Bellator is not around to do that anymore. But it's not an easy go. It's like everyone thinks this is an easy thing to do. Dana says it all the time. You listen to people, they're like, oh, what do you mean it's not easy? Look at how much money you're making. He's making, the UFC's making. Nobody else is making that kind of money.
Yeah, for me, my knock with Donn Davis and Peter Murray is that You guys have decided to do. John, I went on their website the other day on ESPN. I went on ESPN to check out the PFL to watch the fight the next day. And I'm scrolling through their top videos. All their top videos they have as their top listed. It's got Kayla Harrison. It's got Justin Gaethje. It doesn't have their current fighters on there. Like, what are you doing?
How does it
Every
have
time
Justin Gaethje never fought for the PFL?
Still have them on there.
I mean, the World Series of Fighting was turned into the PFL, but
I know, but that's my point. My point is, like, why don't you have your current champions all over, plastered all over who you have? Like, why are you not pushing these guys? You have Bellator rights to their footage. Put that stuff up there.
but that's ESPN. That's not the PFL.
I think you're allowed to put your own.
No, you don't.
Thumbnail.
No, the PFL is a company that the ESPN puts on, and ESPN puts money in the PFL's coffers to have that right. But they're the ones that decide what's on their damn platform. The PFL can do it on their own website, but they can't do it on the ESPN's.
I'd be interested to find out if that's true or not.
Okay.
Yeah, I would definitely be interested because, like, you would think that you wouldn't want to.
I understand what you're saying, and I totally agree with you.
Well, here's the thing, though, John.
I don't think they're in control of that.
The reason why I believe that they are in control, like, hey, we would like this as a thumbnail, or we would like this as the circle on PFL's, whatever show it is because they do the same dumb shit on their social media where they keep showing past fighters. They show Kayla Harrison's fight, literally as Michael Chandler's fight, literally as he's getting ready to fight. Why are you showing this fight if he's fighting in the UFC? Don't show Michael Chandler's fight. It just baffled me. I mean, I just know that, like, in the past, I know Bellator ran the Patricio Pitbull knockout of Chandler before he fought. That made sense.
Sure.
Okay. But not to show Michael Chandler's highlights over Eddie Alvarez. It didn't make any sense to me. And they've ran that a couple times. So just those are the type of things that, like, oh, because he used to fight there. He doesn't fight there anymore. You will never see the UFC do something like that. If he leaves and go, if any of their fighters go somewhere else,
okay,
all right. Highlights of that.
Then let me ask you this. Well, I'm not going to get into it. Never mind. I was thinking about it. It's going to get me in trouble. Well, I'm being honest. When you take a look, there's a lot of things that you can look and say, I know the UFC would never put up with, but the PFL puts up with it. Having the people that are the face of your organization wearing, going to a UFC to corner someone.
Yeah.
And to be in their gear with UFC written on, you look and you go,
no.
How do you think Dana, if it was reversed, do you think Dana would allow that?
Oh, no.
Not at all. You can't do that.
Well, that's from the leadership at the top.
Yeah.
Like, we had this conversation when I was in Saudi Arabia a lot, and there were several guys cornering in UFC gear. I didn't understand why you would allow it. Like, no, you cannot wear it. You can't corner unless you wear our whatever their outfit is. Throwdown, I think, is what it is, or takedown. Takedown. So whatever the outfit is, like, this is what you have to wear. Wear the shirt. I'm not saying you got to be top to bottom in the sweat outfit, but you got to wear the shirt and the hat. If you're not going to wear a hat, then you don't wear anything. But you can't wear a UFC hat. And that's, look, I don't understand. I don't understand that as either, though, as a corner, right? If you were cornering me, like, hey, you got to kind of wear what we're all wearing. Like, my sponsors have paid for this. Like, maybe if you don't want to do it, then you don't have to corner. That's more of a fighter or coach relationship type thing.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, if I was the fighter, I'd be like, hey, like, I fight for the PFL. We've got to kind of just rep this. And you would hope that they would understand. So
yeah, you would hope. But
you would hope. You got some chats for us there, Dave?
Let me see. Yeah.
Okay.
Oops. I think another one might have gone. I thought I saw two in there, but Alejandro Gutierrez asks thoughts on Pena versus Harrison, winner versus Nunes ? Or at MSG ?
Yeah.
I gotta give credit to Juliana Pena for her talk. Yeah, he can definitely talk. She raises things up that you look and you go, okay, I understand where you're trying to go with it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But she definitely gets under the skin of every opponent I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I love the way she does it. And when you're a fighter, you got to understand, people are going to say things. Don't let it ever, show that it bothers you or anything. And she definitely gets under the skin of people. You look at that fight, and where are they both strong? They're both strong on the ground. Physically, Juliana's going to have a hard time matching up with Kayla Harrison. Just going to have a hard time. Physically, way stronger. Physically, just a bigger body. Even though they're going to both weigh in at 135, they're not going to weigh 135 the night of the fight. And she's just skilled on the ground too. So it'll be interesting, but Juliana's up against it.
Hustle Bones. We already talked about what we're going to do in the 45 55. What do I want to see? I mean, I want to see Patty fight Connor or Ilya, and if not that, then Charles. In terms of the title shot, Islam. I mean, I would want to see Ilya earn a spot. So either you run Arman Sarukian or you run Justin Gaethje. For me, those are the fights, because those are the guys he hasn't fought yet. So I
They are not going to give Arman Sarukian a shot until he gets a win.
Yeah, I know.
And then I have sorry, did you have something else on that?
Yeah, I said no, I didn't have anything else on that. Go ahead.
I got Maximilianius one from earlier. Can be John talk about the Shidokan Jitsu Warriors War 1 tournament. Found out watching old Matt Hughes fights, and his tournament was epic.
Oh my God, that was a long time ago. That was one that Frank Shamrock was actually supposed to go with us. He didn't show up, and so Richard Norton took his place. But that was a fight. They had just an incredible lineup as far as the fighters that they had. You're talking about Carlos Newton, Dave Monet, Matt Hughes, Jose Pele, Landy Johns. They had some of the best damn fighters going into that competition. They had a guy named Barkalov that they was their guy he was a Russian guy that taught there. And the real problem was it was a 170-pound tournament. That dude was at least 185 pounds. They cheated trying to do his weigh in and everything. And it was like, there was a lot of things going on in the whole thing. But the matchup, for Matt Hughes was matched against Jose Pele, Landy Johns. And, Matt was coming off of, I think he was coming off of a loss in the UFC to Dennis Hallman. It was his second loss to Dennis Hallman by armbar. And he came into that fight, and, he took Jose down. And I'll never forget standing there and watching, because he's squeezing so hard that his lat is quivering, and I'm like thinking to myself, dude, you need to relax. And, he did it, and Pele was able to get himself up. And as soon as he got himself up, Matt shot for another takedown, and Pele threw a knee, and it just blasted Hughes. And Hughes went face down, and I stopped the fight. And the funny part of it, if you look at it as funny now, is his cornerman was Pat Miletich and his manager Monty Cox, and both of them were screaming at me, "No, John, no, he's okay, he's okay, right?" And I'm picking Matt up, and he turns towards him, and his eyes are doing the crisscross. And they look at me, they go, good call, way to go, good call. Right. But the real story of that one is, he was so concussed from that fight that, they took him in the back, and Monty, being his manager, was there with him. About 25 to 30 minutes after the fight, Matt just looks, and he's sitting there, and he says, what happened? And Monty tells him, he says, you got knocked out. How? It was a knee. What round? It was the first round. Where are my shoes? Your shoes are right down here. Mm-hmm. And about a minute later, Matt goes, what happened?
Oh, jeez.
Right? And Monty goes through the whole thing again, the same thing. And another minute goes by, and Matt goes, what happened? Right? And Monty, being the kind of person he is, you got knocked out. It was a fucking knee in the first round, and your shoes are over there. But it wasn't a good night for Matt on that one, but it was a very good night for Dave Monet. He won the whole thing.
Alejandro Gutierrez. Word around the cooler is Dustin versus Max. Thoughts?
Yeah, that's what that's what we've been told. That's what I've been hearing. I look at it, they've already matched up twice. And just I said it the first time. I totally understand why Max would want this fight again. You're fighting a guy that's a freaking legend in the sport, tough as hell. You're a legend. But if you're Dustin, I just don't get it. I mean, it's one of those. Can you get yourself up for that as your final fight? A guy that you have fought twice, you've beaten twice. What's the upside? The upside is you're fighting someone that you look at with nothing but respect for his skill set and what he's done in the sport. I totally understand that. But man, not an easy fight. Not an easy fight for anybody. And I'm being honest, I look forward to it if they put it together, because I love both of them.
Yeah, it'll be in New Orleans, so that'll be exciting for him. That's kind of what
For
I think is
Dustin,
going to
yeah.
get him up. Yeah, for Dustin.
Yeah.
Alejandro Gutierrez, why did Reyes not get a bonus? Can you guys talk about the non-official bonus fighters get? Do those bonuses have to be reported to the commission?
No, bonuses are not part of the commission actually gets a check from the UFC. They'll get a check that is their show, and they get a check that's their win if they win. They obviously the UFC prints out a win check for both fighters beforehand, but the commission will then say, this is the winning fighter, boom, they'll give them both checks and things like that. When it comes to any kind of bonus or anything like that, that has nothing to do with the commissions. The commissions are only part of what is on the contract.
Yeah.
They get a contract, they see the contract, they know the amount of money. That's what they want put in reserves. The UFC gives them that in reserves and has the check for them. When it comes to the bonus, that's all UFC, and they're the ones to decide who gets the bonus. Sometimes people are happy with who they decide. Sometimes they're not. They think they should have given it to someone else. Dominic had a great performance. It was a big knockout. But you can also look and say there was other guys that had great performances too.
Mm-hmm.
And to sit there and to say, sometimes it's one guy wants a pork chop and the other one wants a fillet. What's going to make them happy that night? Well, that's the same as when you're the guys that's deciding who's going to get the bonuses. They gave the fight of the night to Volkanovski and Lopez. Okay, I was going to say, if you're going to ask me what was the fight of the night, it was down on the prelims. Treson Gore against Tahilo or whatever. But I mean, I'm not going to sit there and argue about it. Lopez and Volkanovski put on a great performance, and so I totally get it. But when it comes to that, the bonuses or any backroom, bonus, that's all the promotion. It has nothing to do with the commission, and they can give them what they want, or they don't have to give them a damn thing. It's not on the contract.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, for most of those managers, they're hoping that it's announced that you don't get the backroom bonus, that you get the actual official bonus, so they could try to take a percentage of it.
That's true. That a lot of them do.
Yeah, they all try. No, that's not something I do.
Oh, I've always, I've argued with managers over it, and I tell fighters all the time, that's your money. They did not do anything to help you in that performance. Okay, they're making their money by being the person that's going over the contracts and talking to the matchmakers and say they get their money. Once that money's paid, anything you get extra, that is yours.
Yeah, you guys are wild if you're giving your manager part of your performance bonus.
There are ones that do.
That's wild. Is there anything else there, Dave?
Nope. Just Sergio Pettis on Instagram says, miss y'all. Otherwise, we'll wrap up.
Oh, Sergio, bud, we miss you too, brother. Man,
totally.
We got to get him on the show one of these nights. He can talk about what's
absolutely.
next for him. Before we go, though, go to WayneMerch.com, pick up some of our apparel. Hopefully, you guys enjoy this show. We do live every Tuesday night, 9:30 Eastern time. So we're going to be trying to broadcast this across every platform. Maybe John can get his Instagram set up next week.
Never.
Before we're supposed to be on. We're live on Twitter, Stitch, Kick, OnlyFans. Check us all out on OnlyFans as well. It's free over there. Also, betustv.com. Check them out for all your best sporting events and odds. Also, Element. Drink Element. John loves Element. I love Element. What's one you got there? Grapefruit? Because I
Grapefruit.
got
I love
the
grapefruit.
blackberry lime.
That's my two favorites right there.
Yeah, I posted the picture of Bubba today, licking his tongue with the can right in
With the
front.
can right there.
Yep. I said, make sure you get you a girl that looks at you the way Bubba looks at Element. So we if you guys enjoyed this show, we'll see you guys this weekend or even the following. There's no fights this weekend.
No, well, there is the PFL.
PFL.
Let's
That's
go.
on the weekend though.
But no, that's true. But no UFC, so you have a free Saturday. That's good for you.
But I think what we'll do is for the weekend show, we are going to try to do a Q&A. So if you guys can, we'll have someone, we'll have either Dave or George put up a Q&A question. You guys can drop some Q&A questions available on the YouTube channel. And we will try and get to those and go from there. Hope you guys enjoy the show. John, take us away, bud.
For everyone out there, man, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you.